RotoGrinders Today. I'm George Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. You want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Wednesday, December 18th, and we'll be taking a first look at the Week 16 NFL DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. So hit your thumbs up buttons. Hit that like button on your screen. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Join with me all the way from Saskatchewan, Canada. Getting up early in the morning for me for our first look. It's TJ Zwarich, and this we don't got any buys anymore. We got a big slate. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. A little lower totals game-wise, but we do have some big favorites. We got Cincinnati with a big implied point total. We got Detroit with a big implied point total. We got a lot of news to keep up with this week. Projections may change a bit. I think the pricing on both sides, depending on some of this injury news, may be pretty soft. But let's start with the top story. I mean, I thought we were going to start with a top story at running back, but maybe the top story will start at quarterback, because that's what we're going to do, position by position. Just kind of going over what the top plays are, kind of like the higher projected stuff, the cash game type lineup, small field, who's going to be more popular, most likely, and obviously the injury news. And, if this guy's out, you got to play this guy, stuff like that. But TJ, there's a shift at quarterback in Atlanta. They are facing the worst team in football, the New York Football Giants, with God knows who at quarterback. Atlanta has almost a 25-point implied total, and Kirk Cousins is out. Michael Penix Jr. is in, and he's 4,500 on DraftKings and minimum price on FanDuel. Props are not out for this game yet, but the fact that the Falcons are still a 9-point favorite in this game, are we just? I mean, is Penix Jr. going to be popular? I mean, he's like 2K. He's priced like 2K below some guys that have lower implied team totals. He's 1K below guys that are seemingly decent enough values. What are your thoughts, first off, before we talk about other quarterbacks, on what we do with Michael Penix Jr.?
Yeah, I think it's Penix week. He's the guy that I'll likely be going to in my main lineup, only $4,500. I don't really think he could be worse than Kirk Cousins. I mean, famous last words. He's a rookie quarterback who had only played 16 snaps in preseason. So there's a lot of unknown, but at only 4,500 against the Giants, it's not like this is some big scary defense, the Giants. So it does feel pretty easy to say, if you're playing a cash game, start out with Penix, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then you got your first three positions locked up. All you got to worry about is the rest.
Well, I don't think it necessarily is as straightforward as that. We'll take a look at some of the running backs, but at quarterback, I mean, if you told me that Penix was not in, the next guy that I would consider to be like value on this slate, sometimes he can be scary, but they're at home inside facing another bad team with Mason Rudolph at quarterback now, not Will Levis, but the Colts have a 23-point implied team total, and Anthony Richardson is 5,400. Obviously, he has rushing upside. They've been giving him a lot more design runs the past couple of weeks. I mean, if you're not going to play Penix at 4,500, going up 900 to Anthony Richardson with the Colts being favored in this spot, I mean, the 23 ain't a bad implied team total comparison. I mean, Minnesota has the same implied team total. The 49ers have a lower one. Arizona is not much higher than that. Are you more inclined to just go down all the way to Penix and face the unknown? Because it could quite possibly, DJ, that Atlanta doesn't just, because we saw them hide Kirk Cousins this last game. Like they did not want him dropping back and passing the ball. But the Falcons have no problem running the ball. And I don't know if they're going to have much of a problem against the Giants if they're up. I mean, how much volume is Penix necessarily going to get? would you be more comfortable if you had the 900 to just play Anthony Richardson?
If I had the 900, yes, I would be very comfortable just moving up to Richardson. I do think there are enough people I want to spend up for on this slate that I will be needing that 900, and I'm going to be wanting to use it for something. And so that's why I'm looking to get to Phoenix and embracing the unknown. And I don't think he's going to have a lot of volume. I think they probably do just lean on that running game. But it also is the Giants, and at 4,500, he doesn't need a lot of volume. If they just decide, like, hey, we want to get this guy's confidence up a little bit going into the home stretch, they let him throw a touchdown pass or two. That's really all you need at that price tag. And the volume, we're not really worried about it. And so, yes, if I have the extra money, I would just go up to Anthony Richardson. I do kind of feel like I'll need the money a little bit, though.
Well, I mean, if you have all the money in the world, Josh Allen is 8,700, which is one of the highest prices I've ever seen for DraftKings. I mean, obviously, FanDuel, the salary cap is, a 60K cap, so it's a different story. But 8,700, I mean, Josh Allen is just putting up, 40 balls, like going out of style. He's rushing the ball, passing the ball, facing New England as a 14-point favorite. They have the highest team total on the entire slate at 30. I think on FanDuel at 9,400, I think you can play him. I think there are builds that you would even like your lineup. You'd play it and go, okay, that I think it's more important on FanDuel. But understand, Phoenix is 6,000 on FanDuel, so you're paying 3,400 more just to get Josh Allen. We'll talk about the mid-range quarterbacks in a second. But do you see a world where the guy that's most likely to put up the most raw points at quarterback, I don't think that many people are going to play?
No, for the third week in a row, nobody's going to want to play him. And that means I'm going to play Josh Allen in GPPs. Like, it's tough to get to, but the beauty aspect of the way he's playing right now and the way he plays in every single December, January, is you don't have to play him with any of his receivers because he's running so much. You can just play him naked. And this is a game where, again, you do worry about the volume aspect a little bit because they could just absolutely blow out this team, and they're facing New England. New England sucks. They could blow these guys out if New England doesn't push back, and it could just be a big James Cook day, big Tyler Johnson day, big Ray Davis day. And they spread out the running backs enough, too, that it could not even be one individual one that has a big enough day. But you don't need to play any of these guys with Josh Allen. And so $8,700 could have another 40-piece incoming. I'm big on him for the third straight week. He's been the only reason I've salvaged any money back or made money the last 2 weeks. And so I'm going back to the well again.
In the mid-range, we have our usual suspects, I think. I think they're fine plays. But you got Kyler Murray at 6,100 facing the Panthers, who came back down to earth last week. Are they horrible? Maybe not as horrible as we think, but probably not good at all. And also Brock Purdy at 6,300 against Miami. I think his passing prop will be pretty good this game. Kyler Murray's obviously Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, he gets put in good spots and sometimes lays an egg. Maybe the team doesn't lay an egg, but he does. Then you also got like Sam Darnold at 6,500. He's shown incredible efficiency, but that Vikings team total is nowhere near what it's been the past couple of weeks. And then you got guys like Tua, who had a bad week last week, 6K, and not shown here since. Burrow's 7,500, so I don't consider him as part of this list. I don't think necessarily you're playing Jaden Daniels against the Eagles or Burrow at 7,500 in like cash game-ish type of lineups. But do you think that do you think the mid-range quarterback? So really what it comes down to is that do you feel better playing a Purdy or a Murray rather than a Richardson or a Penix? Or do you think that neither of these types of guys, like, I feel like, yeah, if I could play Kyler Murray, value opens up where it's like, okay, well, I'll just play Kyler Murray instead of, if I could go up from Richardson to Murray, or is there not that much of a difference. I don't feel that much safer with Kyler Murray, really, even against the Panthers, than I do with like Richardson or Penix, because I mean, I may want to play the running back on the Cardinals, but maybe not both Murray and Connor. And then Purdy, I think he's fine. I mean, he's not going to give you all that much rushing upside. I think he's like, these are the guys where, like, if they have 18 to 20 points, like that's typically about what they score. Do they score 30 a lot? No. Can they throw up a 12? Yeah. But I feel at least that I'd almost rather just pay down just to get, like, wide receiver is going to be a little tougher this week. I'd rather secure, like, I got some wide receivers that could give me 15 to 20, and I don't have to sweat like 3-point Elijah Moore scores.
Yeah, especially with no Jameis this week, that does make a guy like Elijah Moore look a lot worse. I'm
But you
with you.
understand, TJ, the point that I'm making is that if you pay down at quarterback, you won't have to play a punt wide, any type of like sub 5K wide receiver. And
exactly.
And I'd rather just play 6K wide receivers that like are going to get 8 to 12 targets. And I have 3 of them. So run me down if you can.
Couldn't agree more. I'm going to be skipping this mid tier. I'm hoping that in GPPs, Purdy and Murray and Darnold somewhat ends up being the chalk on the slate, because I'm going to be avoiding that range. I think I'd either, like you said, go all the way down to a Penix, to a Richardson. In GPPs, there are other guys down there that I'll take shots on. I don't think it's crazy to try Mac Jones against the Raiders. I don't think Caleb Williams against Detroit is crazy, assuming they're just down a whole bunch of points and he's got to throw it a ton in the second half. Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Drake May, Matt Stafford. I think these guys are viable in this spot for GPPs if you're looking to stack up their offenses. If I'm just looking to save some salary, then Richardson and Penix are the 2 guys that I'm going to. But if I'm either want to go all the way down or all the way up, I think it's sub 6K or above 7K that I'm looking to go to. Like I said, sub 6K, Stafford, May, Smith, Rodgers, Caleb for GPPs, and then Richardson and Mac Jones, and then Richardson and Penix, my favorites. But up top, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, probably all going to be maximum 5-6% ownership, with a couple of them being even lower than that. Even in some not great matchups, these guys all have huge ceilings. The biggest thing holding back Jalen Hurts this year has been teams sticking with Philadelphia, and there's a good chance Washington should be able to. And so, yes, Washington's worse against the run. Maybe they lean on Saquon, but I think Hurts has a big ceiling. Jaden Daniels in that same game has a really big ceiling. And then Josh Allen, a lot more expensive, obviously the crown jewel. But you can have Jaden Daniels for $1,400 less than Josh Allen, and they have similar ceilings.
Let's go to running back. And running back, let me tell you, running back this week, depending on some of these injury statuses, you may want to play 6 of these guys. I mean, like, I feel like I could list off running backs I'd rather play before the first wide receiver I want to play on this list. So let's first talk about obviously David Montgomery's out, right? I mean, these are not updated projections, but the initial one should come out later today. So let's first talk about some injury situations first, because if they're not available, then we don't have to worry about it. Okay. So first off, let's talk about Kenny Walker's status with Seattle. He was doubtful last week. He ended up not playing. I don't know how much he's on track to playing this week. If not, Zach Charbonnet is still 6K. He's facing probably the top rushing defense in the entire league. One of the best defenses in the entire league. But he does catch balls out of the backfield. The Seahawks only have a 19.5 point implied team total. But when Zach Charbonnet is in for the Seahawks and Kenny Walker's out, Zach Charbonnet has a Christian McCaffrey-esque type of role. You don't see much Kenny McIntosh or anything. He plays 95% of the snaps. Ceiling-wise, I question it in this matchup. But for 6K, I can't argue with the volume there. He's 6,900 on FanDuel. And then another guy that may be even better in a similar spot with a 19.5 and point implied team total is Tony Pollard may be out this week. We have to monitor his status. And Tajay Spears is 4,900 on DraftKings. He could catch balls out of the backfield. I think he's much better off with Mason Rudolph at quarterback than with Will Levis. And then obviously, I mean, what David Montgomery is out. We'll talk about Jahmyr Gibbs in a second. But we already know that. We don't have to sweat whether or not David Montgomery is going to be out. He's MCL injury. He's done. These two guys, Charbonnet and Spears, depending on if Walker and Pollard or either or both are out. Your thoughts on these guys, and the main focus of the analysis is, while these two guys may be good median plays, I think the opportunity cost at running back is ridiculous this week.
I do really wish they just would have priced up Charbonnet so we wouldn't have had to mess around with it against the Vikings. But at that $6K price tag, I think we definitely have to consider it. Walker still hasn't practiced this week, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see. It is early. We'll see Wednesday, Thursday, Friday what comes of it. But if he's out, only 6K Charbonnet, very viable. We know he has the floor because he's going to catch passes. The only question is whether he gets in the end zone to show us a ceiling game or not. And so he's very much in play at 6K, cash viable with that floor. In GPP, like that's one of the reasons I want to play Michael Penix, is so that I can spend up at running back and spend up at receiver. And so if I can get up to somebody more expensive, I'm probably going to be doing it. But I'm not going to blow up my lineup if I have 6K for a flex position and it's like, oh, Zach Charbonnet is right there. Afternoon game, get a little bit of exposure to that. Sure, why not?
And how about Spears if Pollard is out?
That one I'm not even really thinking about too much yet, just because I don't think Pollard's going to be out. Pollard always doesn't practice all week and then he just plays. That's been the same case for the last 6 weeks. And so I'm assuming Pollard is going to play just because that's how they seem to roll with him. But if Spears is in, that's another guy like Charbonnet where the floor boosts so much higher because of that pass catching ability, especially in a game they're probably going to be coming from behind. I mean, you never know with the Indianapolis, but I do think Spears becomes probably the top play behind Jahmyr Gibbs. If Pollard were to be out, I just don't think Pollard's going to be out.
Okay, let's take a look at some other values on the slate. The problem I find with the values, which I mean they're fine median wise, is that they're all on underdogs with 21 point implied team totals. So you got Chuba Hubbard 6,800 against Arizona. They're at home, 21.25 implied team total, but there's no one else in the backfield there. Brooks is done, Blackshear's done. Chuba Hubbard essentially has, I mean, he may have the best role in all of football. He just plays for a really bad team. He does catch balls out of the backfield. He gets all the goal line carries. I mean, if Carolina didn't, I mean, we're at least somewhat competitive with the Cowboys last week. Hubbard, good. He had a 1-yard touchdown opportunity that didn't happen. They had a false start penalty and he didn't get in. So I mean, his score from last week was disappointing, but I mean, his floor is amazing. And then you also have Brian Robinson Jr. at 6,200. Washington is in an underdog spot against the Eagles. Problem with the Eagles is the way that they play. You're going to have volume concerns, play volume in general. But we saw last week they had no problem giving Brian Robinson a lot of pass catching work. I don't know how sticky that is, but pretty much he has. I mean, they'll rotate McNichols and Dominguez in, but I think at 6,200, he's a value of some type. I don't think he's the best value or anything like that. But if you play a lineup with 3 running backs and you're like, well, I'm going to play Charbonnet, Hubbard, and Brian Robinson Jr., it's quite possible that you get no touchdowns in any of your running back spots, and they all have 12 points, and you're like, I mean, it's fine. right? They catch 5 balls out of the backfield. Maybe they have 1 touch. Maybe they have 18 points. And you're like, okay, that ain't bad. But then you have some of these running backs that are on favored sides that have ceilings that you will need them to win. And I think those are the 3 guys that I'm looking at in that range are Bijan Robinson at 8,100 against the Giants. I think he's going to be very popular. You'll see some Tyler Algier, but for the most part, it's Bijan Robinson. You pretty much can't get a better matchup in this implied point total and have a rookie quarterback that may have to rely on dumping the ball off to number 7 a lot. And then you also have James Conner at 7,100 with no DeMarcado in. I think people didn't realize last week that once you remove DeMarcado, like Benson ain't really catching balls out of the backfield and playing like the two-minute drill. Like James Conner's role is now like equivalent to Bijan Robinson's type of role. He's going to catch more balls out of the backfield. Carolina has one of the worst run defenses in the league. 7,100. I think this is he could repeat his performance from last week this week. And then you have Jahmyr Gibbs at 7,500 on the Lions with no David Montgomery. Will they mix in some Craig Reynolds or some, whoever's on with the practice squad running back? I guess. But the main thing about the Lions running backs is that the Lions running backs, both Gibbs and Montgomery, even at 7K-ish prices, always project decently. And it's hard to play them because which one goes off? And we've seen games where they both hit ceilings. So you remove David Montgomery from that and say, Jahmyr Gibbs, we're going to give you 85% of the work. You're a 27.25 favorite, and you still catch 5-6 balls out of the backfield. I think the matchup is not like great, but Detroit is a 27-point implied total. And do you just have to play Jahmyr Gibbs? So what's your assessment of all of you have all of these guys. You have Bijan, you have Connor, you have Gibbs. Those would be the 3. If I had unlimited salary, those would be the 3 that I have in my cash lineup. The problem is that then you have to play like 2 4K wide receivers that don't exist, and you can't. So you have to play like a Hubbard, a Charbonnet, a Brian Robinson Jr., or like some of these. We also have Chase Brown at 7,700. I didn't even mention the Bengals have a 27-point implied team total. What the hell are we doing at running back here? If I want to have Jamar Chase in my lineup, if I don't want to punt at wide receiver, I cannot play 3 7K plus running backs.
So to be very, very clear, it's Chase Brown, Bijan Robinson, Chuba Hubbard, James Conner, Jahmyr Gibbs in another whole stratosphere universe than these guys. If I play one lineup or if I play 150 lineups, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be in every single one of them. Chicago, a little bit of a run funnel. This is a guy who has been paying off that price tag while splitting carries. He's going to get 20 to 25 touches at least in this one. And he's been the most electric running back in all of football. And so getting Gibbs this week without David Montgomery, I just can't believe how much I'm salivating. If he's anything less than 50% owned, I'm going to be so excited about the lock button I have on him. But I'm playing him in every single lineup, no matter what. I'm going to try and keep as tight of a pool as I can because it's so strong and just focus on guys that I think are in the very best of spots. So I do have Charbonnet and Spears down there at the bottom. They are my 2 cheapest running backs. And the next cheapest ones in the pool are going to be Hubbard, James Conner, Achane, Gibbs. I'm going to be spending up as much as I can here. Barkley against Washington is super interesting. Bijan is my next favorite on the board after Jahmyr Gibbs. He's my favorite of the spend ups, and I do love Chase Brown too. So, and Achane against San Francisco, I think is interesting. It's super low ownership. So I'm going to try and have a total pool of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 running backs, but basically 8 because I'm going to have Gibbs in every single lineup. And that's why I'm playing so much Michael Penix, because I want to spend up for these running backs as much as I can.
Well, I mean, if you're spending up at running back, I don't know what the hell you're going to do at wide receiver this week. I think the wide receiver position is kind of weak this week, but I mean, the key is that I'm not sure if we're going to get wide receivers like under 5K, and I'm not necessarily I'm not like wide receiver is a position where I'm not enamored by. I'm not saying that there are bad players, but I'm just saying I'm not enamored by. I think the top play overall at wide receiver is probably Jawan Jennings at 5,900 for the 49ers. Well, I mean, they're 1-point road underdogs, but they're playing in good weather in Miami. I think that's fine. If I were to play anyone in the top range, I mean, Chase and Higgins, to me, it's hard to go wrong with Bengals wide receivers. I know they're not up here because the projections aren't updated. But to me, if I were to pay up, Chase is 8,500 against Cleveland with DTR at quarterback, which could be a train wreck. Higgins is, I think, still 6,600, 6,800. But I actually think if the wide receiver I'd want the most of in GPP, I think this guy is cash viable on FanDuel more so on DraftKings. But I want to play Puka Nacua at 8,000 against the Jets defense because the Jets defense, I say it every week, they're not good. I think they're literally, I think I saw on Twitter, they're the worst graded passing defense the past like 6 or 7 weeks of the season. So give me Puka against that team. But in the mid-range, you got like Jennings and Ridley and DJ Moore at 5,700, Jacoby Myers at 5,800, JSN at 6,000 with Geno Smith, who knows, maybe he doesn't even play, right? Metcalf's down to 5,500. I don't know. Is his time come? I don't know. And then you still got guys like Jefferson and Amon-Ra. Devontae Adams had a big game. I don't mind the Jets receivers against the Rams. But do I want to play Kayshon Boutte at 3,500 just so I could jam in 3 high-priced running backs? Probably not. So what are your thoughts overall at wide receiver? Because I really don't see a standout option that looks like 1,000 too cheap. Like, they all seem like they're fine.
I'm going to be living in this 5 to 6K range at receiver this week. Like, I agree with you. Puka's the best spend up. St. Brown and Brown, Jefferson, they all look fine. I think Jefferson would be my favorite of that crew. Going 1 Puka, 2 Jefferson, maybe 3 Terry McLaurin. But I'm going to be sticking in that sub 6K range of Jawan Jennings, Devonta Smith coming off a massive game now in another good matchup against Washington. 12 targets, 11 receptions. He should be 7K. He was 7K before his injury, and he's getting massive amounts of volume without Dallas Goedert in there. And so, assuming Goddard's out again, Devonta Smith at 5,800 is going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate. Myers, Moore, Ridley, Waddle if he plays, Adam Thielen at 56, Jameson Williams at 55, DK Metcalf at 55, Mooney with Penix. I like Keenan Allen, Marvin Harrison. Every single one of these guys is in play. I'm just going to be sticking in that range because that's the range that I need if I'm spending up at running back. I did just try and build a lineup where I plugged in Brenton Strange, cheap tight end. I put in a cheap defense. I put in Penix and went Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Conner, and it left me 5,500 remaining per position at the receiver position. So I could do Devonta Smith, Darnell Mooney, and then go to one of these cheaper options like Josh Downs, Rome Odunze that I am still comfortable with. Maybe if I'm playing Penix, I want to go all the way down to Ray McLeod at 4,500 as a salary saver. So this is like this mid to cheap range of receivers is where I'm going to be going. Having said that, I do really like the 6 to 7K range too. I think I'm mostly going to avoid the expensive ones, but Tyreek Hill at 6,900, Cooper Kupp at 6,500, just because he's coming off his big 0 dud. Sign me up. Brian Thomas, Drake London, Jordan Addison. I really like these guys as well. So subs 5 to 7K is where I'm going to be living at receiver.
There's one guy in there in the 5 to 6K range that we've seen have a massive ceiling. But the question is Deebo Samuel just done as a thing?
Yeah, no,
Like
we're
he's
done with
50,
Debo.
he's 5,200. He has not had, I believe, he has not had more than 22 yards in a game in the past 2 months. Since he's had pneumonia.
It's been over a month since he's even had double-digit fantasy points.
Right. Well, I'm telling you, it's been over a month since he's had more than 22 yards of offense at all.
Yeah. He's done. We're done with him.
Oh, we're done with him? So 5,200, we're just done with him. Gone. He's washed.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings is the alpha.
Juwan Jennings is priority number 1. Yes, he is not only is he priority number 1 for their offense, but he's priority number 1 for me at receiver at DFS this week as well. He has kind of let us down a couple times in the last bit, but they've had some bad weather and some weird situations. So I'm all aboard the Juwan Jennings trade once again, as I'm expecting the 49ers to be with their offense, because he is their number 1 receiver.
Okay, tight end. Are we just going back to Brenton Strange? He's up to 3,500 now. Seems like Mac Jones has no problem throwing the short passes. I mean, this game sucks. Jacksonville and the Raiders, do not stack this game. Okay, this game will not hit a ceiling. It is the low 39.5 total, but I think there are floors, and I mean, like if you wanted to play Jacoby Myers or Brock Bowers or Thomas Jr. and you know, if you want to play some of these guys, oh sure. But I mean, we got like Zach Ertz probably is going to be out at 3,800. He probably John Bates will play or something. I don't think that's going to matter that much. I don't see really much else here at tight end that's really cheap. I mean, Chig had a game, but I mean, does that stick? Probably not. Although I don't mind it against Indianapolis. Other than that, you got Trey McBride at 6,200 against Carolina. If I could pay up a tight end, sure, I'll play Trey McBride. We got Hunter Henry at 4,100 in the mid range. I think Hunter Henry's a much better play on FanDuel at 5K than on DraftKings. But for the most part, I think I'd rather have a higher priced running back or wide receiver than a $6,200 tight end. Although I don't mind Trey McBride. So, I mean, I think we're punting a tight end this week.
Yeah, McBride's great. Bowers is fine. Kittle is actually probably my favorite of the group, just as they're down on in their offense. Purdy seems to be going there a lot. But it's going cheap tight end week for me too. Brenton Strange is definitely going to be my favorite. Mac Jones was liking targeting Strange even when Evan Ingram was playing. And so seeing him go crazy, I didn't expect him to go that crazy, but I did like Strange as best among all the punt tight ends last week. And even though he's $1,000 more expensive, I still think he is the top option among the cheap tight ends this week. We don't really seem like we're going to have any full out punt ones. Guys like Alcantara, Chigakonkwo, Noah Fant, Cole Kmet, I think they're fine. If Zach Ertz plays at 3,800, I think he's probably my next favorite at the among the cheap options after Brenton Strange. But we don't know if he's going to play yet. Maybe that does open up a cheap tight end, whether it's Bates or Sinnott. It depends on what they're going to do there. But Ertz is my second favorite if he plays. Pitts, I think, is fine at 4K. Maybe Penix wakes him up a little bit. Hunter Henry at 41 is fine. Kincaid at 46, I think, is interesting, as is Laporta at 47, Hawkinson at 48. And then Jonnu at 55, I think, is fine too. But I might just lock in Brenton Strange. Like, I might just hope he gets loaded up on targets again, say I know I need the salary, and just lock button Brenton Strange.
DST, I know it's kind of a fill your own position type of thing. Obviously, in cash games, we're much more likely to pay down. So looks like the cheap-ish type. I mean, we could always play the Bears. I don't against the Lions is 2,200. It's another thing where you may get a 0. The Jets defense is awful, but the Rams aren't like great. Where are we going at defense? Commanders 2,700 against the Eagles. I don't really see any standout. Like, you got to play. I mean, the Titans against Anthony Richardson. I mean, I'm a mistake-prone quarterback. I mean, can we play? I don't want to play the Giants. Giants against Phoenix. Where are we going at DST this week?
Yeah, cheap defense is grosser than it has been the last few weeks. Last few weeks, we've had some nice options, and this one just doesn't really feel like we do. Titans at 26 would probably be my favorites against Anthony Richardson. Jaguars at 29 going up against Vegas, especially if it's, I mean, I don't really care. Even if it's Aiden O'Connell, throw the Jaguars in there still. Dolphins, Seahawks, 49ers, Raiders would be the next guys I think I'd be looking at. But the cheap range of Jets, Giants, Bears, Patriots, Panthers, I don't like them. The only range in that only group in that range that I have some interest in, I think, is the Titans. Panthers defense has played a little bit better lately, so maybe them, but I still think Connor's going to be running all over him.
Right. So let's go back to fill out a little bit of a preliminary lineup. So I put Penix in at quarterback, Jennings at wide receiver, Strange at tight end, and the Titans at DST. So in DraftKings, I see, okay, we got to get Gibbs in.
Yeah.
If based on this construction, maybe it's a Gibbs, Connor, Hubbard lineup. Right. I'd love to play Bijan. I mean, there's a point where you just can't do anything. Right. So you get this. You get 6K left at wide receiver average. And I mean, the fact that you're not playing any Bengals is just that's why it's tough to fit in. It's tough to fit in these running backs.
Well, then I think we go. I mean, obviously, I don't know why they're not showing up in lineup HQ right now. I'm sure when they fix when they update projections, I'm sure that glitch will fix. But I would probably want to say maybe look at going Chase Brown over Chuba, and then to low 5K receivers.
Well, I mean, the Bengals, the stuff is. I mean, I don't know. It's like some of these teams are just not in here. I mean, I don't want to. I want to get up at wide receiver. I think still getting up at wide receiver matters. Like even if Charbonnet is in, I mean, where does that get you? If Charbonnet is in instead of Hubbard, right? You get 64.50. Then you could play T. Higgins and a $6,100 wide receiver. Like I'm much more into the high 5K, low 6K, like these type of receivers, because I feel like if I'm gonna pay up at running back, I might as well just punt one wide receiver spot and play like Malik. What is his name? Malik Washington or something? At 3,700 or whatever the cheap du jour Kayshon Boutte type of lineup is there, just so I could get up to a wide receiver that could give me 30+ points. I mean, that's just
but when you're probably going to get why when you could if you're going to get 40-ish dropbacks for Caleb Williams against Detroit, who's going to be putting the pedal to the metal, you already got Jahmyr Gibbs in this lineup. Why not look at a guy like $5,300 Keenan Allen who gets peppered with targets, especially in the red zone? Do you not feel like you could get 20 apiece from Jawan Jennings, Devonta Smith, Keenan Allen?
No.
Why? That's what they put up every week.
Not in the 5K range. No. I think I'm going to have to sacrifice. What I mean, to me,
what about Keenan Allen against them? Don't you like?
It has nothing to do with what I don't like. I don't like playing in cash. GPP is completely different story.
Yeah.
In cash, one of the best heuristics is play teams that are favored with high point totals. Done. And play running backs that have volume. Done. So, I want to get as much volume as I can at running back And then I prefer to play guys that are on teams that either like Juwan Jennings is a little underpriced, but I'd rather not play 3 underdog wide receivers. Right? I'd rather play some wide receivers on teams that actually are going to score a bunch of points.
I would rather play an underdog wide receiver than a favorite wide receiver for what it's worth, because their team is going to be throwing the ball more if they're down, especially when they got a nice total like a team like Chicago, where it's still above 20. And they're going to, and especially if Detroit doesn't, I don't think Detroit's putting up 27. I think Detroit's going to put up 42.
Right. And when they put up 42 points, the Bears will have 38 plays on offense, which means why do I want what? Great. He has a 23% target share on 19 dropbacks because the Bears have gone 3 and out and Caleb Williams has had 2 interceptions. Like, that's the key point that people don't get when it comes to like wide receivers and stuff, is that, oh, well, if they're going to be behind, it's like, well, they're behind for a reason because they've given up the ball enough that they haven't moved down the field. So like, I don't want to stick Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore.
I hear what you're saying in theory, but we just saw this game where Detroit put up a ton of points on Chicago, and what had happened? Caleb Williams had 39 pass attempts. Keenan Allen had over 20 fantasy points. All of their receivers had a ton of targets, because that's what happens when you're down a lot of points, is you got to throw the ball a lot. That's how you get the volume.
Okay. Feel free to sit there and cash games with 3 wide receivers that all have 5 points, because that's well within the range of outcomes.
I mean, I'm going to play Juwan Jennings, Devonta Smith, maybe Keenan Allen, get 30-plus targets between the 3 of them. I feel pretty good about that, getting 20-plus from each of my receivers or running backs.
Well, I hope this is the trend leading up until Sunday, because tomorrow I'll have Grant on with some props and pickup stuff, and then Friday you'll be back. No, I think you're back on Friday. We'll talk about GPP strategy. Okay, so hopefully this holds up until Friday, because from what I gather, like, I will be playing so much Joe Burrow stacks that this is, because if everyone is playing Bijan and Gibbs and all these and these guys, like, good luck paying for Chase and Higgins. And like, to me, I would not go without a Bengal in, like, you say you're lock bucking in Gibbs. I think me personally, I think you have to play a Bengal in every lineup. Either playing one Bengal or you're playing Bengal stacks. I think this could be an absolute disgusting game with DTR at disgusting in the way of the Browns just 3 and out, give up the football, and then Bengals have like 92 plays on offense, and then it's a destruction period. And the Bengals, even if they have a very limited shot of making the playoffs, they're going to go out and they'll put up 50 points, no problem. Like, they won't take their foot off the gas that much. So I hope people are playing more Lions and Bears. I hope more people are playing some of these other games, because I think the Bengals players end up getting squeezed out, especially the wide receivers, the way that you're constructing it.
So on that note, what do you like better? T. Higgins and Zach Charbonnet, or Chase Brown and Keenan Allen?
I don't know if can you hear me?
Yeah, your video froze, but I can still hear you.
My video froze. Okay, because I see a black box. I don't know. My screen share went on or something like that. So what was the question again?
Your still working, and your voice is still working, but your picture just froze.
Okay. Well, I'll be frozen and talking. So what's the question again?
T. Higgins and Zach Charbonnet, or Chase Brown, Keenan Allen?
I'm going to take Charbonnet and Higgins in cash games.
Interesting. Yeah,
I like your side is better for GPPs.
See, and I like the other side for GPPs, and I like this side for cash.
Okay, well, I think they're both fine.
I do, for what it's worth. I think they're all great options, and in GPPs, I'll have variations of both.
Well, now since I'm frozen, my camera seems to be frozen. Let's get the hell out of here. Hit that like button. I can't do my thumb thing. Can you do it for me? Can you do it? Yeah, there you go. Shake your thumbs. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live on the channel. I'm assuming if I reset my camera, I'd be fine. So it's just, I think the camera in and of itself froze. Yeah, so I'll be back on, like I said, Grant tomorrow with Props and Pick'em. TJ will be back on Friday for GPP strategy. We don't got much going on else later today, but we still got NBA stuff and NHL stuff and everything you can get here with a combo premium subscription to RotoGrinders. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Yeah, but I'll be here with you most weekdays, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders today.